My God, if you live in the city of Houston or you're a fan of Houston teams, I really feel bad for you guys. Not only did you go through a monumental snowstorm a couple of weeks ago and had to go through it with no power, not only are you staring down the barrel of another miserable summer in Texas. If you've never been to the city of Houston in the summer, take my advice. Avoid it. Don't go. It is miserably hot, and you get no relief for months. As a citizen of Houston, you're going through all of that, and to add insult to injury, your two major sports teams, and I don't count the Astros in this since I don't really consider Major League Baseball a mainstream sport, but your two major sports teams in Houston are both a complete disaster. The Texans lost the face of the franchise this week. J.J. Watt now playing in Arizona. Deshaun Watson wants out immediately. Then you have the Houston Rockets, who have went from a powerhouse in the Western Conference to a bottom feeder and a lottery team. Both franchises in Houston are in the situations that they're in right now because of one reason and one reason only. Bad management, bad ownership. Both J.J. Watt and Deshaun Watson wanted out because the Texans made bad personnel decisions that made them uncompetitive. James Harden wanted to get out of the Rockets organization because he knew that he wasn't going to win a championship with them. Now, that is partially James Harden's fault. The Rockets acquiesced and brought in every star player that he asked for. James Harden just couldn't get along with any of them, at least in the long term. I say bad ownership for the Rockets because Tillman Fertitta made a crucial mistake with James Harden. He had the opportunity to get Ben Simmons from the Sixers in exchange for James Harden, someone the Rockets could have built their future around. Ben Simmons is killing it this season. He has shut down every elite point guard in the NBA. Luka Doncic, shut down. Dame Lillard, shut down. Donovan Mitchell, shut down. Instead of bringing him in, the Rockets brought in John Wall, who can't even shut a door defensively, much less shut down the best point guards in the NBA. Tillman Fertitta didn't want to pull the trigger on the trade with the Sixers because former Rockets general manager Daryl Morey is now the GM in Philadelphia. So in other words, Tillman Fertitta let his personal feelings get in the way of making a smart business decision. He made a decision based on his emotions. What do we talk about on here all the time? It is never a good idea to make decisions based on emotion because it clouds your judgment. So instead of having Ben Simmons, you have Victor Oladipo and John Wall. Oladipo already reportedly wants out, and John Wall is a complete bust. The only one who really came out ahead in this deal was James Harden, which, if you think about it, is not surprising. That's how it usually works in the NBA. Superstar player forces his way out of town, former team goes up in flames, and guys like James Harden continue to flourish. The Rockets haven't won a game since February the 4th. During that stretch, they've lost 5 games by 20 or more points. DeMarcus Cousins, gone. Like I said, Victor Oladipo, he wants out, on his way out. This team has rebuild written all over it. All the while, James Harden and the Nets have won 9 of their last 10 games and are in second place in the Eastern Conference. I will give Tillman Fertitta credit for one thing, though. James Harden made his return to Houston Wednesday night, another game in which the Rockets were completely dominated. But Tillman Fertitta did the right thing. He announced before the game that the Rockets were going to retire James Harden's jersey. I thought the timing of it was a little bit surprising. I mean, we're talking about a guy who didn't exactly handle leaving Houston the right way. But with that being said, for all the contributions that he made, James Harden absolutely deserved to have his number retired in Houston. Obviously, the fans in Houston weren't in a welcoming mood Wednesday night. Harden was booed pregame, booed during the game. But fans in Brooklyn couldn't be happier with this situation. After 2 decades of having no chance at winning the NBA title, Nets fans really believe 2021 could be the year they win their first NBA title. Now, me personally, I'm not so sure. I have my doubts. I'm still waiting for the hammer to fall in Brooklyn. I am still waiting on things to fall apart. Maybe that's just me being negative or having a negative point of view. But all I can go on is the past. The reality is, you have three superstars in Brooklyn who have checkered past when it comes to getting along with their teammates. Kevin Durant couldn't handle Steph Curry getting all the praise in Golden State. He felt like he wasn't being given the respect that he had earned. He had that fight with Draymond Green early on in his last season with the Warriors, which I believe was the catalyst of him leaving Golden State. Then you have Kyrie Irving. Do I even need to sit here and explain all the teammates Kyrie has been unable to get along with? He couldn't get along with LeBron James. He failed as the locker room leader in Boston with the Celtics. He was the lone veteran in that locker room, as far as star players were concerned. Plus, Kyrie Irving is just an all-around weird dude. I mean, the guy's traveled the world, still believes the earth is flat. Then you have James Harden, Dwight Howard, Chris Paul, Russell Westbrook, all fellow superstars that James Harden couldn't make it work with. And now, with all of these guys in their 30s, well, Kyrie Irving's about to turn 29, but close enough. But now I'm supposed to believe, with all these guys being established veterans, they're all just going to magically get along when they haven't gotten along with fellow teammates their entire careers? I'm just having a hard time believing it. Oh, sure, right now, everything's all good in Brooklyn. Kyrie Irving has publicly stated that James Harden is the Nets' leading point guard, not him. Harden has been on his best behavior. After the public thrashing that he received for how he left the Rockets, what did you expect James Harden to be? On his best behavior. He's even changed his style of play. James Harden's always been, I don't want to say a ball hog, but James Harden's always been a player that needed the ball in his hands at all times to excel. It hasn't been that way in Brooklyn so far. He's sharing the ball. He's getting his teammates involved. Perhaps he's learned that he needs his teammates in order to win a title, that he can't do it all by himself. Maybe that's the case. But most people don't change their ways at 31 years old. It's real easy for things to be rosy right now in Brooklyn. Everything is new. Harden's only been there for 6 weeks? Plus, the trio of James Harden, Kevin Durant, and Kyrie Irving have played a total of 200 minutes together, about 4 games. They've barely shared the floor together, so of course there's no tension. They haven't had time to build tension. I'm interested to see what happens when the pressure is on. Maybe they'll prove me wrong. But even with 3 superstars, there's still a major problem right now with the Nets. This team plays absolutely no defense, none. Brooklyn's one of the worst defensive teams in the NBA. Balancing that weakness by having the number 1 offense, that's fine during the regular season. But being this bad defensively is just not going to cut it in the playoffs. The Golden State Warriors dynasty is most remembered for their record-setting offense, the three-point shooting of Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, the death lineup with Kevin Durant. The Warriors were elite offensively, but the reason they built that dynasty, the reason they were dominant for so long, was because they were elite defensively. I've got a lot of respect for Steve Nash, but defense is not his forte. Steve Nash is actually a cautionary tale of what happens in the playoffs when all of your focus the entire regular season remains on your offense and you don't focus defensively. From 2005 to 2008, Steve Nash and the Phoenix Suns had the top offense in the NBA. 3 straight appearances in the Western Conference Finals. And 3 straight losses. Twice they lost in a gentleman's sweep, 4-1. Why? Because they ran into the Lakers and the Spurs. 2 teams that could keep up with them offensively, but could also stop them defensively. Defenses clamp down in the NBA during the playoffs. NBA teams don't play defense in the regular season. Requires too much effort on a nightly basis. But in the playoffs, when there are no back-to-back games, games are spaced 2 days apart, the elite defenses have the advantage. Now the question is, can the Nets win a title this season playing no defense or playing poor defense? And the answer is no. I know everyone gets excited about the trio of Kevin Durant, James Harden and Kyrie Irving and what they can do offensively. But if Brooklyn doesn't fix their defensive issues, they're going to eventually struggle in the playoffs. One thing is certain. All of the pressure this season is on James Harden to bring a title back to Brooklyn. For one, Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, they've already won championships. They have their rings. Harden's the only one that doesn't. And two, James Harden got exactly what he wanted. He got out of the mess in Houston, landed with the Nets, the team that he chose, and his reputation and legacy barely took a hit for it. All the antics that he pulled to leave Houston have basically been forgotten. He's being looked at again as one of the premier guards in the NBA. But this revitalization of his career, it is only going to be looked at as a success if he wins the title. Just making the NBA Finals is not going to be enough. James Harden has to win a title. If he can't do it with two of the best players in the NBA, Kevin Durant being one of the all-time greats, then who in the hell can James Harden win with? What do you guys think? Has James Harden revitalized his career in Brooklyn? Has how he left Houston already been forgotten? Also, is all the pressure on him to win a title in Brooklyn this season? Let me know your thoughts. Make sure to like and subscribe. Click the notification bell to receive all notifications from the channel. Best way to contact me is by email at btlkc84@gmail.com, KC_BTL84 on Twitter. I'll see you guys next time.